Hey, everybody. Check out how I'm living, everybody. We all need a little parappa of the rap in our lives sometimes. Especially when you're covering a UFC show, like UFC 191, Johnson versus Dodson 2. Now, if you're not familiar with what happened in the first fight, that was one where Johnson actually knocked out Dodson in the first round, which is pretty rare because a lot of times, these strawweight guys don't really have knockout power. They're not really known for, going in there and just TKOing people. But that happened in that one, happened pretty early. And, the thing is, Demetrius Johnson, he is, very. Oh, wait, I call it a strawweight? It's a flyweight. My bad, that's the women's division, it's 115. But yeah, the thing is, Demetrius Johnson, he's a very underappreciated fighter. He's absolutely dominated the division since 2011. But of course, the problem is he's small. I mean, it's kind of hard to take him seriously when you're watching the fight. And he's like literally a foot shorter than the referee. But beyond that, I'd probably say if I was into things like pounds for pound ranking, I'd probably put him in the top 10, really, across the world as far as MMA fighters go. So heading into this matchup, he's taking on Dodson again. It's a rematch. We already know what happened the first time around. Just looking at the basic statistics here, height and reach dead even. As far as fight time goes, Dodson has a bit of an advantage. Now my rationale here is prone to criticism. I will come out and say it. In that when I say when I look at the fight time for an individual fighter, my rationale is, the less amount of time their average fight is, and if they're in like a main event, that usually means they finish their opponent. So if they have, a 6 minute average fight time compared to an 11 fight time, that's going to give me a little bit of sort of an incentive to pick them over perhaps another opponent because they actually finish them. Their fights are shorter, they're more efficient, so on and so forth. Like I said, that is very prone to criticism. It's not a perfect formula, but just as a general component, a criteria of picking fights, I think it's pretty usable. Beyond that, though, this fight pretty much is all Johnson, all day, every which way you can think of. He leads with strikes landed per minute, striking accuracy, strikes absorbed per minute. He's a better defensive fighter, better defensive striking. Takedown average is higher, takedown accuracy is higher, submissions attempted per 50 minutes is higher. Pretty much everything tilts towards Johnson's fight except for takedown defense. Looking that up real quick, I believe that's 88% for Dodson compared to 65% for Johnson. And wow, these guys have really astonishingly similar names. This really gets these two guys confused. But yeah, some of the meteor data as far as strikes absorbed per minute, 1.76 for Mighty Mouse, 3.37 for Dodson. So obviously Dodson's eating a whole lot more punches. That's really my big criteria. Whoever gets hits the most usually is the guy I don't pick. Takedown defense or takedown, is it takedown percentage or takedown average? No, wait, it is takedowns per 15-minute fight. Anyway, 3.74 for Johnson versus 1.12 for Dodson. Takedown defense, 55%, or takedown average. Man, it's confusing. Takedown average anyway, 55% for Johnson and 40% versus Dodson. So, pretty much tells you everything you need to know. Half the time that Johnson goes for a takedown, he gets it. 2 out of 5 times, Dodson gets it. So once again, pretty much across the board, it's favoring Johnson. For this one, I think it's pretty much going to ground him out. I think he's going to go in there, maybe not finish him off in the first round, but I think he takes him down in the second, goes in for some ground and pound, and wins by TKO. Johnson retains, not really that much of a main event. Okay, our second one. And this one is one of the more interesting co-main events we've seen in the UFC in quite some time. We've got Andrei Arlovski with his resurgence taking on Frank Mir. And Frank Mir is basically like the guy who will not flush. I mean, every time you think this guy is basically on a downward trajectory and he's irrelevant, he comes back and wins a fight he probably shouldn't. And once again, he's back in the heavyweight title fray. He's done this like 4 or 5 times, just like over the last 6 years. He just does that. And in this fight, I think Arlovski's a pretty considerable favorite. But looking at the data, I mean, there's some oddities going on here. Okay, Mir, he's got the reach advantage. got the lower fight time, but that is probably because he got the crap beaten by Brock Lesnar and Shane Carwin a couple of times. Strikes landed per minute goes towards Arlovski. Striking accuracy and strikes absorbed per minute all goes towards Arlovski. So I think in terms of striking, you got to give it to Andrei. But as far as the takedown, the ground game, Mir, better takedown average, better takedown accuracy, and a much, much higher submission attempt per 15 minutes. Drilling down to the data a little bit. Frank Mir is hitting 4 significant strikes per minute in UFC compared to a 2.33 for Arlovski. Strike and defense, 63% for Arlovski, only 37% for Mir. But then you look at the ground game, takedown average, 2.18 attempts per fight for Mir compared to 0.38 for Arlovski. Takedown defense favors Arlovski 85 to 54%, but submissions, and this is the key, I think it's going to be the deciding factor of this matchup, 2.3 for Mir, 0.6 for Arlovski. Now Arlovski's a heavy favorite. He's a much better striker than Mir. However, I look at the takedown game. He's a much better wrestler, and I think the submissions, that's going to be the deciding factor. I think Mir is going to pretty much weather the storm up front, start taking him down in the second, and then in the third, that's when he takes him down and he locks in a very, very nasty submission finish, and he gets one of the biggest upsets of the year. I got Mir winning it. Round 3, submission. So that's it. Well, here's a fight that's pretty easy to call. Anthony Johnson versus Jimi Manuwa, and I think Jimi Manuwa is going to fight like he's a Paulo Manuwa against Rumble, because pretty much everything going towards Rumble in this one. Height, reach, average fight time, striking accuracy, strikes absorbed per minute, striking defense, all going towards Johnson. Let's see, what advantage does Manuwa have? Well, he's landing more significant strikes per minute, and he has slightly better striking accuracy. Slightly, but not really that much better. The takedown game, Johnson all day, every day. Takedown average better, takedown accuracy better, more sub-attempts per minute. Key stats, strikes absorbed per minute, Manuwa's getting 3, Rumble's getting 1.67. Strike and defense, 64% for Johnson versus 47% for Manuwa. Takedown average for Johnson is 2.36 per fight versus 0.98 for Manuwa. Takedown accuracy, 57% for Johnson, 33% for Manuwa. Not much to say here. I'm going to go with Rumble, taking it round 1, TKO. Should be nasty. Jane Blankowitz versus Corey Anderson, and right off the bat, you have to know that Corey Anderson has one of the worst nicknames I've ever heard. His nickname is Beastin258, which just sounds so random. But anyway, this is actually a pretty close matchup. Height and reach goes to Anderson, but average fight time goes towards Blankowitz. Dead even strikes landed per minute. Slight advantage as far as strikes landed. No, wait, that's striking accuracy is dead even. Strikes landed per minute favors Anderson, even though the strikes absorbed per minute favors Blankowitz. Really, the thing here that's going to determine this fight is the ground game as far as takedown accuracy, takedowns average, and striking defense. After that goes toward Anderson. All these things look alike. Takedown defense, sub attempts, dead even. But like I was saying, takedown average, takedown attempts goes towards Anderson. And I think anytime you have a fight where you have one guy who's really that much of a better fighter, and 2 stats we'll throw out here. For Blankowitz, he's landing about 3.36 significant strikes landed per minute compared to 5.94 for Anderson. So this guy, he can punch. He can punch fast and hard. But really the big thing here is takedown averages for Anderson is 4.45 per fight compared to 0. So Blankowitz pretty much has no takedown game. Anderson, he can strike and he can take you down. So he's got both of those toolkits, and I think that's going to propel him to a ground and pound second round TKO victory. So nothing too exciting, but just going what I have there. Probably the best fight on the entire show is the curtain jerker. You got Paige Van Zandt taking on Alex Chambers. Height and reach going towards Van Zandt. Average fight time Chambers. Pretty one-sided as far as striking. Strikes landed per minute, striking accuracy, strikes absorbed per minute all goes towards Van Zandt, even though striking defense towards Chambers. Takedown average, Van Zant, but looking at takedown accuracy, takedown defense goes towards Chambers. Key stats, striking defense, 53% for Chambers, 41% versus Paige Van Zant. Strikes absorbed per minute, this might be the decisive factor. For Van Zant, it's 2.01 strikes absorbed per minute. For Chambers, she's eating 5.35 significant strikes per minute in her UFC career, which does not bode well. I don't think Paige Van Zant really has that diverse of a toolkit when it comes to fighting, but I just think Chambers, she's just not that good a defensive fighter, and she's going to find a way to basically negate her takedown game and keep it a jabbing affair. And I think that results in Van Zant riding out to unanimous decision victory. All right, very quickly, going to run down the non-main card, the preliminary events. I got Ross Pearson over Paul Felder, unanimous decision. Francisco Rivera over John Lineker, also by unanimous decision. Jessica and Andrade taking out Raquel Pennington, round 2 submission. Joe Riggs going over Ron Stallings, unanimous decision. Joaquim Silva, Nazarano Malgary, flip a coin because I have no idea who either of these guys are. So I'm not even going to make a bet on that one. Just go ahead, do 50-50, do whatever. And Tiago Trader taking on Clay Collard. I'm going to go with Trader in a mild upset, round 2 knockout. So I'm not going to order the pay-per-view, but I'll probably follow it live on SureDog or something like that, or Half Guarded. Really great website if you're not familiar with that one. But not the best looking show, but UFC 192, 193, 194 are all shaping to be really great. So hopefully this is the last mediocre on paper looking pay-per-view we're going to have for quite some time. I think from here it's going to be better, but you never know. Crazy things happen. You might get an upset or two, but all in all, kind of a middling show. We'll see what happens.